How about now? Let me make sure my mic's on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? It's like the old Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now? Shout yourselves. Somebody tell me in the comment section you can hear my voice. Make sure the mic's on and working the way it's supposed to. It's a new mic. Maybe I don't have it plugged in all the way. Good now? Y'all can hear me now? All right, should be clear now. All right, there we go. Working with a new mic, but this is way better than the mic that I had before now because it's closer to me, so the source is more direct. But anyway, hope everybody's having a great day. We're gonna get started in this live right now. I am gonna be recording this, so this will go up on. I'm gonna put these on Facebook. They'll be on my Facebook page, which is Facebook/Work on Your Game. My YouTube channel, just look up my name here on IG as well. For those of you who are not familiar with me, or maybe even if you are, introduce myself as always. My name is Dre Baldwin, former 9-year pro athlete, author 31 books, creator of this whole brand philosophy framework called Work on Your Game. I built this whole thing based on the tools that I learned in professional sports, taking the attributes and the skills and the strategies that you need to succeed as an athlete. And what I did is I created this whole framework that translates those tools from the sports world to the work world and into everyday life. That's what this whole Work on Your Game philosophy is about. So that book, that black book right there called Work on Your Game, is all about that. And all the other books you see behind me, they are all sub frameworks within the Work on Your Game philosophy. So usually with these lives, the people start coming in after I start talking. So we're going to get straight into this and it'll go as it goes. And again, this replay will be up later on. So the topic here today is I want to talk about the 4-part framework to how I actually coach people, because my university, Work on Your Game University, is the only place where if you want to work with me directly, you want to be coached by me directly, the only place to be coached by me is to go to Work on Your Game University. That's where I will work with you on wherever you're at, from where you're at to where you want to go. What I do with Work on Your Game is I built basically this reverse roadmap. We figure out where you want to be and we work strategically to get you there. But there are 4 pieces to this process. And it's not a process that anyone, whether you work with me or anyone else, it doesn't have to just be me. You could go find whoever you want to work with. Maybe you're already doing that. You should not be following this process by yourself. You shouldn't be following a process to get from where you are to where you want to be by yourself, because first of all, there are 8 billion people on the planet. Why would you want to do things by yourself when you leverage the resources of 8 billion other people? Why do it by yourself? That makes no sense. That's an inaccurate formula. It's a not a wise use of your resources. If you could use a bunch of other people's resources, why would you just use your own? Doesn't make any sense. Again, all y'all heard of OPM, right? Other people's money. There's OPT, other people's time. OPK, other people's knowledge. OPE, other people's experience. Use other people, right? That's why there are 8 billion people on the planet. That's why we're social creatures. So that's one reason why you shouldn't be doing everything by yourself. Another reason is you can't see yourself in the mirror. There are certain things about you and your process and what you're doing and you personally that you can't see and you can't diagnose and you can't fix by yourself. This is why doctors don't operate on themselves. This is why barbers don't cut their own hair. You got to have other people around you who can see stuff that you can't see. So let's get into the 4 parts of this. I'm going to lay this out here on video. I'm probably going to do a podcast episode on this where I go even deeper. And if there's anybody who has a question or comment while I'm talking, go ahead and post it in the comment section. I will address it later on. Point number 1, the topic is my 4-step process to coaching. Number 1 thing we start with is mindset. Mindset is number 1. If you listen to my podcast is called Work on Your Game. It's on all platforms at workonyourgamepodcast.com. I'm going to put the link right here. So any of you want to go, any of you need to find my podcast, is at workonyourgamepodcast.com. That's where you get the links to Apple, Spotify, all that. I open that show every day talking about the 4 pillars of the mindset for working your game: discipline, confidence, mental toughness, personal initiative. This is the foundational piece of everything that I do. So when I work with anyone, I don't care if you are a CEO of a company and you're earning $1 million a year, or you're an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, a entrepreneur just starting out. Maybe you haven't even made any money yet, but you have an idea and you want to bring it to fruition and bring it to the market and make money from it because you know you want to help people and make a difference. And maybe you have a job and you're trying to get out of that job and you're trying to figure it out. You could be on any end of the spectrum. With every person that I work with, I have to find out where your mindset is at, and we have to make sure your mind is in the right place in order to for me to help you get from where you're at to where you want to go. For you to get to where you want to go, the number 1 thing you're going to need is not money. It is not information. It is not hard work. It is not what's the other things that people think they need. They need relationships and connections. All of those things can benefit you along the way. The number one thing you need to get from where you are today to where you want to be a year from now or a decade from now is mindset. You need to be in the right frame of mind. If you don't have the right mindset, you can have all the resources, all the opportunity. You can know everybody in the world. You can have every good break, lucky break work in your favor, and you will still fail if your mind is not in the right place. How many of you have ever been or known a person who had a whole bunch of opportunity, a whole bunch of resources, a whole bunch of talent? Everything seemed to be working in their favor for them to be successful, and they failed anyway because of something in their own mind. Either they were undisciplined, they didn't believe in themselves, they had no mental toughness, no persistence, no grit, or they just didn't want to do the work. They just didn't have the persistence to actually go out and do something with the opportunities in front of them. All of us have known somebody like that, and maybe, if we're being honest, many of us have probably at different points in our lives maybe had one of those as a challenge, one of those things that kind of slowed us down. And in my book, Work on Your Game, I talk about how I had challenges with all of those areas. And because I was able to overcome those challenges, that's how I became an expert at that, on these things at this level, at the professional level, to where I can help other people with it, because I know what it feels like to be at different levels of it. Because if I had always been perfect at these things my entire life, how can I help somebody who's not perfect? I don't know what it feels like to be in their shoes, but I know what it feels like to be at different levels of this. So that's why I'm qualified to help people like you with it. So the number one thing is mindset. And when it comes to mindset, especially when we're talking business, we'll talk specifically to the business people here and entrepreneurs, is that mindset is not just you being willing to work hard and believing in yourself and feeling like you're mentally tough and all of that stuff. Those are things that all sound good and people talk about those all the time. Here's the thing about mindset is that you have to know, not believe, not think, but know that you are operating by accurate formulas. And this is something that many people don't even understand what this means, let alone can they actually do it. And often, and I'll get to that in a second, actually, the often part. When it comes to accurate formulas, this is what I mean. You have to be able to look at a situation, and whether you do it through your own knowledge or through the knowledge of other people, and you should do it through the knowledge of other people, because again, why would you not use other people when there are 8 billion people on the planet and you're just one person? You need to get an accurate assessment of what is really going on in the situation and where you can fit in and take advantage of that situation. And then that's when you start taking action and start doing it. Many people do not do this. Many people think, when I talk about the concept of accurate formulas, sometimes I deal with people who think they're operating by accurate formulas when they clearly are not. I deal with people who have an idea, and because they're so stuck on their own idea, they get to feeding their own ego by believing that their idea is better than it actually is, or that their idea is going to work when the marketplace clearly does not want it. All of these are mindset challenges. People who, they have this thing that they want to do and they're just stuck on it no matter what anybody tells them. They're just going to try to force a square peg into a round hole. That is a mindset challenge. All of these are mindset challenges. So whenever you find yourself doing any of these things, you find yourself trying to force something to work over and over again and it's not working, you probably have a mindset challenge, that you're looking at the situation inaccurately, and that's why you're not getting the result. Notice the wording that I'm using here. When I say accurate, accurate does not mean correct. Accurate and correct or / right are different things. See, if I'm trying to be right, that means I'm just trying to take my opinion and force my opinion on you. Accurate is different. Accurate means we have some objective measure of what we're doing, and we're going off of what the objective measure says, not what I say versus what you say. It's what the objective measure is saying. And when we're talking business, we're talking about the marketplace. And we're talking about sports, we're talking about the scoreboard. Like, you understand how this works? We're talking relationships. We're talking, all right, who are the people who are interested in you? This is the accurate formula. Accuracy is not about one person being right and one person being wrong. Accuracy is about, we need a clear objective measure of what we're doing, and we're going to base everything on that. Now, if I happen to be the mouthpiece for the objective measure, then okay, you could say it's me, but it's not about me. It's not about my personal opinion, because anyone else who understands accuracy, they would tell you the exact same thing that I'm telling you. The thing is, I created this framework, this proprietary framework that can teach this to you. So number one step for anyone working with me is we got to get your mind in the right place. Mindset is the first piece. It is the foundation. If your mindset is weak, you don't have a solid mindset foundation, it doesn't matter what else you have in place. You can have a bunch of talent, bunch of opportunity, great idea, great marketplace, timing on your side. You will blow it and fail. Why? because your mind is not in the right place. Mindset is everything. This is the starting point. Everybody clear on that? So number one is mindset. Number two, second piece here, we're talking about 4 steps that I take people through. Anybody that I'm coaching, again, I don't care if you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company or you're an entrepreneur just starting out. Everyone's going to go through these points. Now, there are different things we do at each point, but these 4 points are for everybody. Number 2 is strategy. What does strategy mean? Everybody here has heard of the word strategy, and everybody has probably used the word strategy. The challenge with strategy, especially in the world today, is that even though people throw the word around, a lot of people don't really know what it means, and nor have many people ever actually executed a strategy. You might think you're executing a strategy, but you're probably not. Many people think that they're executing a strategy just because they're getting results and things are working, that they have a strategy. Like, yeah, I'm being strategic. These are working. I'm playing chess, not checkers. You ever hear people say that? People say they're playing chess, not checkers, and don't even know how to play chess. A strategy is a plan of action designed to carry things out to a specific outcome. That's what a strategy is. There's a clear outcome, and you create a plan of action to get to that outcome. That's strategy. Many people think they're being strategic just because they got an outcome. Often you can get an outcome in life if you work hard, you have talent and timing on your side, and maybe the marketplace and some luck on your side. A little bit of luck happens in life, that you can get to an outcome without having a strategy. To give you an example, when you see this book right here called The Overseas Basketball Blueprint, this blue book, I wrote that book based on my experience playing pro basketball, because I figured out after getting out of a Division III college how to get into overseas basketball, what I needed to know. I noticed the mistakes that I was making. I did a whole bunch of trial and error, signed some deals, had some times when I didn't have a deal, had to deal with this agent, this team, that team, negotiations, contracts, money, playing ball on the court, off the court, traveling the world, all that stuff. Because I went through all that, and because of the way that my mind works, I'm a very analytical thinker. If you follow my stuff, you probably have a good idea of that. I was able to, by deductive reasoning, take all the stuff that worked, all the stuff that didn't work, and put it into a process. And I wrote that book called The Overseas Basketball Blueprint, and 3 other books about overseas basketball. One about exposure camps, one about agents, and one about the overall business of overseas ball. I'm explaining all of that to you to explain this. When I first signed my first contract to play pro basketball overseas, I did not have a strategy to do it. I was able to achieve it because I had some basketball talent, and I worked really hard at it. I tried a whole bunch of things. I was just trying random stuff to see what worked. And I had a little bit of luck and timing on my side. I went to an exposure event. The right people were there who were looking for somebody like me. I played well at the event, and I got a good scouting report. And then I took that scouting report. I started shopping myself around. I found an agent. That agent knew some people overseas. That agent helped me get my first deal. And from there, I kind of took it from there and ran with it. The whole point is I didn't have a strategy when I first got on. But if somebody wants to get on now, I could give them the strategy because I wrote it down in that book right there and the 3 other books that I wrote about overseas basketball. The point being, sometimes you can create success without having a strategy. Just because you are successful and things are working does not mean you're being strategic. When you're being strategic, here's what happens. You can recreate your success. You can do it over and over and over again. One of my favorite frameworks is the same things the same way every time. It's one of my favorite phrases as well. The only way you can do that is by having a strategy. Now, could I have done the exact same thing to get on overseas again based on how I first got on? No. Why? Because I didn't have a strategy. I just did a whole bunch of random stuff and it happened to work. That's not a strategy. That's just doing stuff. Many of you have heard this phrase, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That is a lie. It's not true. Hard work does not beat talent if the talent gap is big enough. There's times when the hard work can beat the talent, but most of the time, that's not the case. Just working hard and banging your head up against a stone wall is not a formula for success. I know your coaches told you that. Some of your parents and school teachers have told you that. Maybe your brother, your sister, maybe some motivational speaker you follow on social media told you just keep working hard, no team, no sleep, wake up early, stay up late, just put in more time than everybody else, blood, sweat, and tears, and you'll just be successful. That is a lie. That is false. That is not a formula for success. So if somebody told you that, delete that. All right. And you could tell them that I said it. You need a strategy. What is a strategy? Again, everybody, it is a plan of action. This is where we start to implement. We put together and then implement what I call that reverse roadmap. We figure out where you want to get to. We got your mind in the right place. That was step 1. Now we're going to come up with a strategic plan for you actually getting to where you want to get to. That's what we do here in this second point. And again, I'm talking about my 4-step process for how I coach people. So for number 2 is we got to get strategic. We got to create a strategy and a plan of action for you getting to your outcome. These are not tactics. Tactics work within a strategy. So a tactic is something happens and then you respond and do something. Then something else happens, then you react and do something. Something happens, you react and do something. Usually you're reacting when you're being tactical. That means, again, every time something comes up, you do something. Something comes up, you do something. That's how a lot of people live their lives. And unfortunately, it's how a lot of entrepreneurs run their businesses. Something happens, they react. Then something else happens, they react. And any of you who's in entrepreneurship or you work professionally, you might have heard people use the phrase putting out fires. And somebody says, I feel like I'm putting out fires all day. That is what it means to be tactical. Being tactical is when you're putting out fires all the time. Every time every time something comes up, you got to do something else. Something comes up, you do something else. What happens is it can actually be fun to be tactical at certain points. The problem is eventually you start to feel burned out, right? Because you're literally putting out fires. Not literally, but you literally feel burned out metaphorically because you're always putting out fires. So you understand how those two connect. This is why you got to get strategic so that you have a plan for what you're doing. Doesn't mean the work automatically gets easy, but at least there's a plan for addressing the work. Everybody following me so far? So the first 2 steps, mindset 1, strategy number 2. Number 3, third step, and I'm telling you the 4 steps here to anybody that coaches, whether group, one-on-one, whether you're a professional in the business world, whether you're a entrepreneur, whether you're a solopreneur, whether you're an athlete. This is a 4-step process everybody goes through. Number 3 is accountability. Accountability is a word that, again, most of you are familiar with this word. And most people, when they use the word, they're only using half of the definition, all right, as far as what the work when you game world is concerned. Most of you know accountability to mean what? Showing up, doing what you're supposed to do. You got this assignment. You're supposed to do these 3 things. Accountability is somebody's going to make sure you did the things that you're supposed to do. And if you don't do it, there may be some kind of penalty. Somebody's going to ask you, why didn't you do that? Something's going to happen if you don't do what you're supposed to do. That's accountability. If you're raised by, your parents raise you, they say, clean your room. You don't do it. You're going to, end up grounded, or they're going to take your phone or whatever. That's accountability. Or if you have a job and the boss says, have these papers on my desk by 5 and you don't, you might get fired. That's accountability. Everyone's familiar with that. Do your job and there's going to be there's some reason why you need to do your job. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem, right? Everybody gets that part. Here's the other side of accountability that most of you never knew about or think about, and you probably wouldn't even know what to do with it. Now that I'm about to tell you, but in my program, I know what to do with it, and I'll show you, is your process needs to be held accountable. See, process accountability works the same as person accountability. So if I help you, and step number 1, we did your mindset. Step number 2, we created a strategy, right? So now in step number 3, accountability is, first of all, you have to show up and actually execute on the strategy that we created. That part you get. That's the part you know about of accountability. Here's the other part. We got to make sure that your strategy is being accountable as well. Meaning, if I put a strategy in place, let's say I put a strategy in place and I run some advertisements on social media. Some of you might have seen my ads right here on this app. And I run some ads because I'm trying to get some people to come into my world. Whether you go click on download something for free, go get one of my books, pay the shipping for the book, whatever it is I'm trying to advertise. I got to make sure that my process, the thing that I'm advertising, my advertising campaign, I got to make sure that's being held accountable too. Because what if I'm spending $1,000 a day in ads, but I'm not making that money back? I'm not getting ROI from my advertising spend. That means my process needs to be held accountable too. At some point, I probably need to stop spending $1,000 a day on ads, or eventually I'm going to spend all my money running ads that are not turning over and producing a return on investment. So accountability for the process means not only do you need to have a process, you also got to check the process and make sure that when you're executing on it, it is doing what it's supposed to do. It's producing the expected outcomes. And if it's not, then we need to figure out why and where, and then make the necessary adjustments. See, all of this is part of strategic planning and part of the strategic thinking that most people never do. They just show up and just work hard and hope that it works out. And again, some people, it does work out, and then they go and start telling you this is what you need to do. But that's not the strategic way of doing it. I'm telling you the strategy way. So third is accountability for yourself and for your process. Number 4, we're talking here today, for those who came in the middle of this, my 4-step process. Whenever I'm coaching anybody, whether, again, group, one-on-one, business person, professional athlete, whatever, entrepreneur, figuring out person, somebody in the middle, this 4-step process, everybody goes through at different levels, and there's different things within each one, but everybody follows these 4 steps. Number 4 is execution. Yes, execution. What does execution mean? This is when you actually start doing stuff. This is when you're taking the actions and doing the things. Now, many of you might be surprised to hear that execution is only the fourth step, because a bunch of you, this is the way that you were taught and this is the way you've been living and working, is you just jump right in and start doing stuff and hope that it works out. And then if and when it doesn't work out, you're like, all right, well, you're scratching your head like, all right, why is this not working out? Let me figure out what the problem is. Can somebody help me? Can somebody tell me? Can somebody diagnose? All right, this is how we've been taught in our world. So just go straight into the work, to start doing stuff and hope that you get the result. And listen, I'm a guy, I'm the work on your game guy. So some people might listen to my message and think that they may misconstrue it to mean I should just start working as hard as I possibly can on whatever ideas I already have, and let's see what results get produced. Here's the problem with doing that, is that first problem is that sometimes this works for people. So it will trick you or other people into believing that that's a formula for success when it is not. You simply just got lucky and you had happenstance on your side, was fine. Again, I just told you how it worked for me. It happened to me. The other problem is when you just go straight into doing stuff without having any kind of strategic plan, most of the time it does not produce the desired result. And then you're saying to yourself, well, look, I'm working hard. I'm showing up every day. I'm doing all this stuff. I believe in myself. No, I'm excited. I have passion for what I'm doing. So then you start thinking that clearly either something's wrong with you, something's wrong with your idea, something's wrong with the marketplace, or something's wrong with your process. And that's why you're not getting the outcome. Or maybe something's wrong with your idea and not even the process. When the real problem is you don't have a process. That's what your actual problem is. Some people say to me, well, I don't know what's wrong with my process. And then I ask them a few questions to find out what they're doing. Turns out they don't actually even have a process. So yes, there is something wrong with your process. The problem is that you don't have one. Many of you are operating without a process and wondering why you're not getting the results that you want. This is exactly it, what I'm saying to you right here. So the execution part is when you actually put the strategy that we've already created in place and you actually start doing it. This is the fourth step. This is not the first step. This is the fourth step. If any of you ever read Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, there's a reason why the book is called Think and Grow Rich, because the thinking part comes first. The growing is the verb. Well, think is a verb too, but thinking is the part that you do in the planning stage. Then you do the physical stuff, the action. That's what comes later. The growing part comes after. It's think and grow rich, in that order. So you have to get your mind in the right place first. Then you strategize. Then you make sure there's a process in place. Then you go and actually start doing stuff. Many people perform this whole thing. Everything I'm talking about, they do it backwards. This is what most people do. They first start doing stuff randomly, hope that it works, then it doesn't. Then they go to their second step is my third step, which is the accountability, which is then they start looking at themselves and looking at their process and wondering what the hell the problem is because they're not getting results. Then they think to themselves, oh, maybe I should make a plan. Maybe I should get strategic about this. Long after they should have did that a long time ago. So they're doing it backwards. Then they come up with a plan or a strategy that's not even good. It's usually a paper thin strategy that's not actually going to work. And then they call themselves doing that. So they do that and it's not really getting them what they want. And then they finally think to themselves, oh, well, maybe I'm thinking about this all wrong. Maybe I got the wrong approach. Maybe I didn't do this the way that it needs to go. And then they try to start working on their mindset. So most people do this in the exact opposite order from which it's supposed to be done. So I just told you the order in which it's supposed to happen. And also, you actually going to need some help with someone who can hold your hand and walk you through this process for several reasons. Number one, you can't see yourself in the mirror. Number two, there are 8 billion people on the planet. Why would you try to do everything by yourself when there's all these other people that you can use? You can leverage them and their resources to help you achieve your goals. Why would you do everything by yourself? That's stupid. It makes no sense. So this is why when you work with me in the work on your game world, we're going to go through these 4 steps for you to get to the outcome that you want to get to. So I'm going to recap these 4 points. If somebody has a question, post it and I will address it. So here are the 4 steps again. Anybody who works with me, the 4 steps that we're going to follow. Number 1, mindset. You have to get your mind in the right place so you have a proper assessment of yourself, your work, and what you're working on. Number 2, strategy. This is where we create that reverse roadmap from where you are to where you actually want to be. And the strategy has to be, number 3, held accountable. Not only are you held accountable to execute the strategy, but also the strategy is held accountable to make sure it's actually producing the results that it's supposed to be producing. And if it's not, then we make our adjustments. And number 4 is the execution. That's when you actually start doing stuff. You don't just jump in head first and start doing things and hope that you succeed. You get a plan in place. Then once all the pieces are in place, then you start executing. If you just took this a little bit of time to plan and think about what you're going to do, usually using someone else's brain, again, because if you could figure this all out on your own, then you would already have done it. Since you can't, that's why you get other sets of eyes to help you out in figuring things out. Then you start doing the stuff, and that's how you produce results. And this whole cycle, we keep repeating it, because as you're executing, you got to do things to keep your mind in the right place. We have to make sure that the strategies are working, because you change, times change, the environment changes, people change. So we always have to keep updating the strategy. Accountability is some type of apparatus that makes sure you are showing up and doing what you're supposed to do. Usually you can't be your own accountability partner, right? That doesn't again, another thing that doesn't make sense that a lot of people think they can do, or they lie to themselves and say that they can or will do, and then they do absolutely nothing. I know this to be true because I communicate with probably 100 or 1,000 people every single day, whether through my texts, my comments, and all that, the DMs, all the stuff that I get and the material that I put out. So I know people do this. And then the last thing, again, is the execution. That's the work part. That's the do the stuff part, the part that people understand. Not everybody even does this either, but people at least understand this one probably more simply than any other three. So this is the 4-step process. If you work with me, that is the process that we're going to go through. Again, it doesn't matter what level you're at. Within each one, there are sub frameworks and sub frames and sub pieces that I will walk you through. But if you join my group coaching program or my one-on-one program, they are both at workonyourgameuniversity.com. That is the 4-step process that we're going to go through. I will be taking you completely through these: mindset, strategy, accountability, execution. If you go to workonyourgameuniversity.com right now, you will see it all laid out right there on that page. If you want to join the group program, you can do it there. You want to work with me one-on-one, there's a link for you to apply and sign up for a call. You got to talk to me first before I work with anybody one-on-one. So I choose all my one-on-one clients and my group coaching clients. So that is, again, at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Any questions? I didn't see any in the comments while I was talking, but I might have missed one. So if somebody has a question, you go ahead and post it and I will address it. What I'm going to be doing today, I got some writing to do, some emails that will be coming out. I got a bunch of emails that will be coming out this week. So if you're not on my email list, make sure you get there. You get one. If you've ever ordered one of my books, you're already on my email list. Or if you're on my texting community, then you'll be getting my emails. Actually, you won't get my emails, you'll get my text. But I'll send out a text. I usually send out at least one text a week that gives you an opportunity to get on my email list. But you can get my emails by going to workonmygame.com. So let me put that link here. If you want to get the emails I send out every week, go right there to workonmygame.com. If you want to get my daily motivation text messages, I will put my number right here. That's 305-384-6894. I send that text out every single morning to everyone who's in my text community. Just text me at that number right there. I'm D True. Discipline. Yes, that's what's up. And yes, Work on Your Game University. So that's what's happening now at the university. My daily motivation text message coming out every single day if you just text me at that number, 305-384-6894, you'll get the daily motivation every single day. And I got some good email stuff coming out this week. Everybody's at a different stage in my automations, but I got some emails I'm going to send out to everybody who's in my list. And yeah, that's that. So I didn't see any comments or questions. So we're going to wrap this one up, everybody. Make sure you follow my Facebook page too, because I might start doing more lives on Facebook as well as IG. Sometimes I do them both at the same time, but usually I pick one. So make sure you are on my Facebook page too, just in case I go live on Facebook. That's Facebook.com/workonyourgame. I'll put that link as well. But these are easy to remember. All you gotta do is any platform you're looking for me, just look up my name. I'm easy to find. Facebook.com/workonyourgame is my Facebook page. I got about the same number of people on Facebook as I got on IG. So I might do some of these lives on Facebook, some on IG. I can do more with it on Facebook, but we'll see. The IG audience is a little bit more active traditionally, but anything can change. That's why we got the strategy part. So everybody, and the accountability. So everybody, y'all have a great rest of your afternoon. I'm gonna wrap this one up. You got a question or comment for me, send me a text message or hit me in the DM. Work on your game. Dre all day.